school there, pretty average student, and got A's and B's, didn't really have any strong feelings towards going into any particular career. And so my junior year of high school, I decided that it's probably time to do some exploring and figure out what I'm going to do after high school. And so ended up finding out about the Lyles College of Engineering summer engineering experience. And at that point in time, it was a women only engineering experience, which was really a neat thing. So I decided to attend that summer school, kind of week-long experience, and had a wonderful time. Met a lot of amazing engineering professors at Fresno State who were doing really cool things and had such a nice way of communicating and viewing the world. And I really related with that. I liked how straightforward everything in engineering was. And I loved the creativity involved with all of the problem solving. And so I decided after I attended that camp at Fresno State that I would look into some scholarship opportunities. And for anyone who knows a little bit about Fresno State and how some of the big scholarship programs work, there's a couple of big ones. At the time when I was applying for college and scholarships, there was the Schmidt Camp Scholarship and the Husband Boeing Honors Scholarship. Husband Boeing was engineering specific and just provided a neat opportunity to kind of go through school with a cohort of folks in an honors program where we did some service projects, and it also paid for a good chunk of my schooling, which was a huge blessing. So I ended up applying for that scholarship and was lucky enough to be selected to be a member of the 2012 cohort. And so that kind of really worked out. So I started my freshman year of school in fall of 2012 and just started taking lots of GE classes, kind of your typical freshman experience, and started all of those classes. I lived in the dorms, which was a great experience, getting to meet other students and develop study groups and have some fun, which was awesome, and started the honors program as well. So that was kind of my freshman year's experience. I ended up looking into the civil engineering program at Fresno State and realized that I needed to declare an emphasis, which basically for the high school students, that's basically where in the civil engineering school, there are a couple of different areas that you can study, areas of engineering in the civil umbrella. So for instance, water resources, transportation, geotechnical engineering, structural engineering. Those are just a few of the options for the bulk of the classes that you'll take during your engineering education. And so I remember I was sitting with my grandma on her couch and she pulled out this magazine article and said, you know, Hannah, I know that you're trying to figure out what you want to do with this engineering degree, and I think it's great, but I just want you to think about this. Everybody needs water. And so that kind of kicked off my interest in water resources engineering. And then as I got further along in my education, I had the opportunity to continue taking classes in water resources engineering with Dr. Pasha, who's actually on the call today, and loved everything that we learned. It just really resonated with me. And I decided that that would be something that I would focus on for my career. And so that was a decision that I made my freshman year of college. I'll just hit the pause button here just to be fully transparent with you guys. A lot of folks who go through engineering school have trouble deciding what they want to focus on, or they switch majors. And that's not a bad thing to do either. I think it's a little bit more uncommon to just decide on something your freshman year and stick it out the whole way. So if you're one of those students who has changed their mind a few times, don't be discouraged. Don't feel like an oddball. That's totally normal too. And it's okay. So just to give you a little bit of encouragement there. Also, I wrote down a couple of notes just of encouragement going through your freshman year. Just because you're taking general ed classes doesn't mean that they're always going to be easy. Calculus for me was very, very difficult. So if you're a freshman in college right now and are struggling with some of the GEs, don't be discouraged. Your professors are trying to teach you how to critically think about problems so that when you get into the workplace, you have a good approach for how to deal with tough issues, be it in the technical realm or in the personal realm. So just keep trying, keep pushing on that. Just a little word of encouragement there for you guys. As far as my freshman year went, a few other little tips. If you're in that freshman year of college, or even are a high school student entering into your freshman year, see if you can make friends with folks who are a little bit older than you, even if they're not doing something that you're directly interested in the engineering college. There's generally a very tight-knit community of students, and they really want to help you. So make friends with folks that are a little bit older than you. Ask them for internship advice. They want to help you get an internship, and your professors and your other students in the program want to see you succeed. So don't be afraid to lean on them and ask for help. That's actually the perfect little transition point into how I ended up getting my first engineering internship. When I was a freshman in the spring of my freshman year, so my second semester, it was about March, and I put together my resume and started looking for an engineering internship. I knew that I needed to work in the summertime, make a little bit of money to pay for my rent. And so I started looking, and I had heard that the odds were pretty slim on getting an engineering internship as a freshman, simply because as a freshman, you haven't started taking your technical engineering classes yet. And it's very easy to be discouraged by that if you're a freshman and to just apply for a job that's not engineering related. But I would just encourage you, if there's a job that piques your interest in the community and it's engineering related and you don't think you meet all of the qualifications required to get that job, still apply for it, because you never know what's going to happen. I ended up applying for a job at CAL FIRE for an internship there. It was a position that I'd heard about from one of the upperclassmen. He encouraged me to apply, and I thought, what's the worst that can happen? I won't get the job, and that's okay. At least I've met a few new people and I have my resume polished up. So I ended up applying and got the job. And that was a huge milestone in my college career. I learned how to draft at that job. I learned how to work with engineers and learned a little bit about the field, and it was just a wonderful experience. So that was my experience getting my first internship. Now, as far as high school and college students, community college students, a couple of tips when you're going into an interview that'll help set you apart, even if you're not the strongest candidate. It always helps to make eye contact, practice having a good handshake, and write down your interviewers' names. So those are just 3 really little practical tips that I could give you that will instantly set you apart when you're going through an interview situation. And I do think that they helped me lock in that first internship. So just a little word to the wise there. I ended up working that job basically from the beginning of summer going into my sophomore year. And then I extended my internship all the way through the work year, which was great because it was right down the street from Fresno State. I was working for some engineers, so they understood what the class load and workload was like for an engineering student, and they were very gracious when finals rolled around and midterms. So it was just a wonderful experience. And in that job was where I first learned how to draft. So for those of you who have heard about a program called Autocad, and if we were in person, I would ask you all to raise your hands if you've heard about Autocad, but Autocad is a really prolific program that engineers use when we're trying to draft up designs. And drafting, for high school students who may not know, it's basically just a way of drawing images on a paper to show people what you want to design, what you want to build. And AutoCAD is a program that a lot of engineers use to do that. And it's a very technical program with a very steep learning curve. But if you know how to use AutoCAD, it'll really take you places in your career because you have one other technical skill set that's very, very difficult to build up from the ground up. So if you are presented with the opportunity to take a class to learn AutoCAD, I would really recommend that you take that class and learn how to draft. It's only going to help you as an engineer, and it's going to be a huge benefit to your future employers, just having that skill set in your back pocket. So if you have that opportunity, I would definitely encourage you to take that. I was able to learned how to draft at that first internship that I had, and then ended up solidifying my skill set when I took the class at Fresno State, the drafting class. So it's been hugely beneficial to me as a professional engineer for my day-to-day workload. If there's not a drafter who's available to help me show people what my design is supposed to look like on paper, I'm able to just come up with that myself. And so that's really nice. So that was my freshman year experience. Eloise, I'll just pause here. Do we have any questions so far from anybody?
Not yet.
Okay, awesome. All right, so that will just take us into sophomore year here. So more calculus, more physics, more GEs. If you guys are in your sophomore year of college, you're probably seeing some students who are just dropping out of the program like flies, and that is very common. The classes get harder, people get discouraged, and instead of sticking with it, they just decide to quit and try something else. And for a lot of folks, that's okay, but I would just encourage you, if that's the stage of life that you're in right now and you're getting discouraged by these hard classes, just keep persevering. It's just going to build grit and it'll help you in the future. I would also encourage you during your sophomore year, one of the things that I wish that I had done is done a few other extracurricular events. So if you have the opportunity to go out and play a sport, that's going to help keep you balanced while you're doing all of your technical studies. So, and that's really healthy too. It's good for your brain. If you can take an art class and build up your creative skills while you're building your technical skills down the road, that'll help you be a better presenter when you're trying to pitch projects to different clients or different folks that you're working with. And you'll be able to communicate technical information in a very clear and concise way that'll carry through for people who have a technical background and don't have a technical background. So that's something that I wish I would have done. So stay balanced and have a little bit of healthy fun. It's going to help you when you're older. So let's see. During my second year as a sophomore, I started taking I think it was just a few, maybe one engineering class, and really enjoyed that. And then at the end of my sophomore year, I ended up applying for my second engineering internship, which was at a company called AECOM. And having that first engineering internship at Cal Fire, I think made it a lot easier to get that second engineering internship. So just an encouragement to all of you guys, once you can kind of get that first engineering experience locked in, even if it's not an engineering internship, if you volunteer at an engineering firm or at some company that does construction work or something related to the field of engineering, that'll help kind of keep your career trajectory rolling because you're just building all of your experience up. So I ended up applying for my second engineering internship at a company called AECOM and worked for a wonderful man named Henry Leong, who may be on the call today. And he was just so instrumental. That engineering firm was really focused on water resources engineering. And there were a lot of young engineers that worked at that company. And it was really nice to be able to see what life looks like for a young engineer. So for you high school students, even if you get the opportunity to shadow someone who's in the field of engineering, I'll bet you if you ask most professionals, and if you can come and shadow them for a day to learn about what they do, I'll bet that they would be thrilled to have you along. So don't be afraid to ask. Most people in the engineering field are very kind and they're super happy to help. And it's a really big community where so many folks have helped build young engineers up. Most engineers are just super happy to pay it forward and help build you up as well. So don't be afraid to ask. Let's see. So that second engineering internship at AECOM focused a lot on water resources engineering, worked on AutoCAD a lot, and it was my first exposure to kind of seeing the difference between the private and public work sectors, which is something to consider if you're in your senior year of college and you're thinking about what type of a job you want to go for when you graduate. There are some significant differences between the culture of a public work environment versus a private work environment. So just maybe talk to your professors a little bit about that if you have an opportunity to talk to someone who works in a private and public work sector. I will just say overall, I work in the public sector right now, and by public sector, I mean typically like a governmental agency. So maybe you work for a city or a county. That's what I would classify as like the public sector. And then the private sector would be like a private engineering firm. So a group of engineers, designers, and drafters who all work in a company to put together plans and designs for other folks who need work done in the community. And in the private sector, it was a lot of fun being able to work there. And it's just a kind of a nice dynamic. People love what they're doing and they work really hard, and you get to work on some neat projects, and it's typically very cutting edge. You see a lot of new technologies being used. There's a real focus on efficiency, productivity, but there's also just nice cultural dynamics there in the private workplace. But on the flip side, you also feel the volatility of whatever is going on in the economy. So if it's a slow season, you might feel that more when you're working in the public or in the private sector, because work is a little bit harder to pull in, right? So versus the public sector, what I do now, the job is different. You're required to maintain a certain set of systems, kind of keep them rolling, and that's a more steady work stream. So something to consider as a senior if you're looking into some different jobs. One isn't necessarily better than the other, public versus private. They're just different, and it depends on what you want to do. So that was kind of my experience as a sophomore. Let me see, I've got a few questions in the chat here. I'll pause for them. What are some resume tips when applying for the internship job? And that's from Debashish Yadiv. So Debashish, applying for an internship or job, I shared a few little tips earlier. Make eye contact, write down your interviewer's name, learn how to give a good handshake. And then also there's a career center at Fresno State. And I know if you're at a community college, there's likely counselors who will be able to help you with this, or even at high school counselors as well. But those types of centers, the career center or a counselor, you can take your resume into them and ask them for some input. And that's really helpful. I did that before every job that I applied for, just because I felt like it would be helpful to have someone with more expertise in a different career field of work take a look and provide input. So don't be afraid to use those resources at Fresno State. It's a free resource, and probably at the high schools, I'm sure it's free for the counselors and community colleges. Ask a professor, ask a counselor to look over your resume. That's only going to help you. Always put together a cover letter. Your cover letter kind of explains who you are, what your experience is, and how you can help that company. And you want to do a little bit of research in the company that you're interested in working with, so that you can show them that you're interested in their goal and that you can help them achieve that goal. So always tailor it. As someone who has looked at lots of applications for interns, I can tell right off the bat when it's a template. So make sure that you put some time into really tailoring it to that particular company's goal and mantra. So those are some little tips that I have there. I've got one other question here. Does it take longer for someone who starts their engineering career at a community college rather than straight to a university? That's a great question, Ivan. And I will just kind of preface my response by saying that that wasn't my particular career path, going to a community college as opposed to going straight to a university. But from what I've seen and from the other engineers that I've talked to, I don't think it has that big of an impact. What really matters more is that you are a hardworking and caring student. So if you keep your grades up, work hard, and show interest in what's going on with the community, you can do all the same things at a community college that I would recommend you do at a four-year college. You can still reach out to professionals, still ask to shadow them. You could still ask to apply for internships. And ultimately, that's what's going to help you get jobs and stay employed and make a difference as an engineer. People, when I meet someone, I don't think about their community college experience. I want to know, what's been your experience in the field of engineering? Who are you as a person? Who are you as an engineer? And that's kind of what I look for. So hopefully that helps. Let's see. I think that's it for the questions so far. So thanks for the great questions, everybody. Let's see. So we'll get into the meat and potatoes of it here. So sophomore year worked at AECOM, same thing that I did with Cal Fire. Started there in the summertime, and then my boss was kind enough to let me continue to work through the school year, and that was a huge blessing. Started my junior year still working at AECOM, and your junior year is really when you're going to start taking a lot of your engineering classes. So that's really when I started taking the bulk of my water emphasis classes, taking classes that teach you about all different disciplines of civil engineering or whatever discipline you're in. That's when you're going to kind of get your breadth foundation. So the GEs give you those tools you need to solve the hard problems that you're going to be working on your junior and senior years. So it's related. Don't slack off your freshman and sophomore year because you're just learning how to learn, and those skills will help you out in the future. So started taking those civil engineering classes. The advice that I would give is just find a good study group. You want to study with people who are going to help build you up as a student and encourage you to keep working hard. And then also I would just kind of share, I know that not everyone goes to Fresno State. Some folks are still in high school on this call, which is wonderful, but Fresno State really does have wonderful professors. And that's not something that, like wonderful invested professors. And that's a very rare thing to find professors who really want to get to know you and who are willing to help you out, even when it's outside of class hours. They really want to help you. So don't be afraid to ask them questions at the end of class. They're probably going to be thrilled that you were listening to them during the lecture and are invested enough to ask questions. So don't be afraid to ask them for help. Also, I'd tell you, the homework isn't busy work that you're going to get. In junior year, I took a lot of classes that taught me very foundational concepts that I need to be a good engineer. Some of them are in subjects that I am not super interested in. And just because you're not super interested in any one of your classes doesn't mean that you shouldn't work just as hard. So I'm a personal believer that to be a good engineer, it's good to know a little bit about what different people do in different sectors. And, you know, when you're taking those classes, for me, it was like geotech class. Maybe I'm not super passionate about geotech engineering, but it's still really good to know those foundational concepts, because when you're in the future putting together a design package or trying to understand what a consultant is doing when you're working with someone else, you need to know enough to be able to speak their language and understand generally what they're doing. So work hard in those classes, don't slack off. They're teaching you foundational concepts you're going to need in the future, especially if you decide eventually after you graduate for you seniors to become a professional engineer. You're going to need to know a little bit about everything. So take good notes, ask for help from your professors, and just kind of put the nose to the grindstone and just work hard. That's what I've got for my junior year here. All throughout this experience, I was in the Honors College of Engineering, the Husband Boeing Honors Scholarship Program, and we were doing service projects. I remember one semester I had the opportunity to do some compaction testing on concrete, which was really fun. And basically what I did was I made different concrete mixes and I put them in little Pringles cans because I was a cheap college student. That's all I could afford. I cut the Pringles cans in half and made these little sample concrete specimens. And some of them had different proportions of cut up recycled materials like rubbers. And I did compaction testing on them in the lab, and Home Depot ended up giving me all my supplies for free, and it was free and easy to use the lab at Fresno State Engineering. And that was one of my fun honors projects, was to learn about the compaction strength of concrete. So if you have an interest in doing something like that, you don't have to be in an honors program to do a project like that. You can just talk to the folks, to your professors and the folks who run the labs, and I'm sure they'd be happy to help you. But those projects also helped kind of build up my resume. You know, when I was applying for my first job out of college, I could list all of the different projects that I had worked on outside of school through the honors program, and that gave me a little bit of an edge, I think. So just to kind of encourage you to don't be afraid to use your resources. There's a lab at your school for a reason, and if you have an interest in something, pursue it. So that was kind of what I spent my junior year doing. At the end of my junior year, I did the same thing that I did at my freshman and sophomore years and ended up applying for a different internship. And I didn't leave these internships because I didn't like what I was doing. I loved who I was working for and I loved the work that I was doing. I just felt that it was really important to see different facets of the engineering world. And so that's what I did, and it ended up working out great. So applied for an internship at a small company. Actually, they're not so small now, but a company called Provo and Pritchard. They're located in Fresno, and they actually had a scholarship that was attached to the internship. So that worked out really well because I had a little bit of money to pay for books and things. So for the folks who are in college right now, there are lots of unclaimed scholarships that are just kind of floating around. You just have to look for them and throw your hat in the ring, and there's a chance that you're going to get it. So I would encourage you to keep an eye out for those things and talk to people, especially folks like Eloisa. She's the VP of the ASCE Students Branch. She knows a lot about what's going on in the community and is an excellent resource for just trying to figure out what shoe might be a good fit for you. So just a little encouragement there. Eloisa, I'll pause before we get to my senior year. Do we have any questions that have come in?
Somebody just sent one. It says, it's from Mohammed. It says, do you think it's possible to major in civil engineering while playing college football or any sport, or would it interfere?
That's a great question. So the question about, is it possible to play a sport while you're in the engineering school? I would say yes. One of my best friends in college was a woman named Anne, and she is one of the most brilliant people that I've ever met. And she was an incredible cross-country athlete at Fresno State. And she always scored higher than me on the exams and managed to beat school records. So I would say that it's definitely possible. You just have to have the passion to be invested and work hard in both. But I would also kind of just, as a warning for someone who has taken on too much, I would just say that if you're going to play a sport, you can't do everything, right? So there may be other areas of your life that you have to sacrifice so that you can do both the sport and engineering college well. And that's something that I saw Anne do. There's a lot of things that she didn't do because she wanted to be an excellent runner and an excellent engineering student. So you can definitely do it, but you just have to be realistic about the fact that you need to maintain balance, and something's going to give. If you have this much commitment here, this much commitment here, you can't put this much commitment here, right? So hopefully that helps. Any other questions, Eloisa?
There was just a question about the recording, and the recording will be posted on the Laos College of Engineering YouTube channel, just so everyone's aware.
Nice. All right, so senior year, that's where we're at right now. Senior year, you're finishing up your technical civil engineering classes, and it's really honestly a very fun year because you're so close to the end. And the classes that you're taking are really interesting. There's a lot of life application in them, and those are all great things. A lot of technical skills that you're going to learn your senior year. One tip that I'd give you during your senior year that I just happened to hear about through the grapevine is the importance of taking your fundamentals of engineering exam. And basically what that is it's a precursor to getting your professional engineering license. And in the US, basically what happens is, to be able to take responsibility for a design that was done, typically you have to have a professional engineering license. And in order to get that, the most common path is to get your fundamentals of engineering exam passed, and then get some work experience, and then take your professional engineering exam. So I would just encourage you, take that fundamentals of engineering exam. You're going to get a certificate, and it's going to allow you to put the letters EIT after your name. That means engineer in training. And I guarantee you, if you pass that exam and put EIT on your name, on your resume, it's going to make employers look twice. And that basically, when I look at it, I see this person is invested in engineering. They understand the trajectory, and this is someone that I want to talk to more. So it's not a hard class, but by your senior year, you'll probably be ready to take it. It's not a hard test. So I would just encourage you to look into that. It's called the Fundamentals of Engineering exam. Google search that, Google search engineering training, Google search NCEES California. That's kind of how everything is structured in California for professionally licensed engineers, is through that website. So give it a Google search and take a look. It's definitely going to be worth your time. Senior year, you're also going to start working on your senior projects. So I would just say, for those of you who are seniors and maybe you're in your 180A class, find someone nice to sit next to who knows what they're doing, and they'll likely be a really reliable partner for you for your senior project. Let's see, I'm going to hit pause here before I get to the job search part and read this question here from Dr. Nunez, talking about another civil engineering graduate who is on the soccer team. She graduated and was a dean's medalist. Yeah, so it just takes a lot of discipline. So I would definitely agree with that. And then Alexis is saying, how did you study for the FE exam? That's a great question. So if you go onto those websites, they have different study guides that you can purchase, and they also have reference materials. And the reference materials contain equations that you use on the exam. And so I would definitely make sure that you get a copy of the reference materials, because that's going to give you a leg up so you can see what equations you're going to need in the exam or what concepts you're going to be tested on. And then just take the practice exams. You used to be able to just purchase it as a hard copy. I think you still can. And sometimes if you have other friends who are taking the FE too, you can just share that hard copy, and that's the cheap college fix to that for sure. I think that's all the questions here.
I believe there's one more from Alexis.
Oh, sure.
It says, what organizations related to water resources did you join at Fresno State?
Oh, good question. So I was also a part of ASCE. It's a wonderful, wonderful organization, and I would recommend that everyone join it, just because it can't hurt to meet new people. That's worst case, and best case is you make some industry connections and you get better at what you want to do. So I ended up participating in MidPAC, which is a conference that a lot of different engineering colleges participate in, and they have a water resources focused competition. And I ended up organizing that for that year's MidPAC that we hosted, and that was really, really fun. So ASCE is probably the top one that I would recommend. And it's also the one that a lot of professionals in the community are involved in. And so there's a really nice kind of a pipeline, right, from college to career. And even for the folks in high school, talking a little bit with Hernan before this, there are a few different engineering clubs that you can join as well. And so really just any engineering club that you can get into is going to help you. Oh, and AWWA. Yeah, thank you, Dr. Pasha. So that's great. Any other questions, Eloisa?
I don't believe there's any other questions so far.
Wonderful. Okay. So senior year. So I've gone through my little tips and tricks, and I've told you a little bit about what my experience was like. I think in March of senior year, I ended up applying for jobs. And I would just encourage you, same advice that I had when you're a freshman, even if you're looking for jobs and you see a job that interests you, even if you don't meet all of the qualifications listed, but you have an interest in what that job is, throw your hat in the ring. It's not going to hurt. And then, go to the Fresno State Career Center or one of your counselors if you're in school. Even if you're in high school, ask the counselor for help on your resume. You'll probably be able to get a better paying high school job. I wish I would have done that. So I ended up getting a couple different job offers before I graduated, which was a huge blessing. If you just Google, engineering jobs, a bunch of them are going to pop up. I ended up finding the job that I have now on a website called mygovernmentjobs.com, which I initially thought might be a scam, but it wasn't. So lots of different options out there for finding jobs. make sure that you polish up your resume, polish up your cover letter. And then kind of just as a senior looking back on my college experience, I wasn't a super stellar student, but I tried really, really hard, and I generally kept my grades in that A to B range. And so there were lots of people in the class that were smarter than me, but I was still able to get a job out of college, because I was interested and tried hard. But I also always took a very full unit load. So I was always between 18 and 21 units, I think, when I was in college. Most of those were my engineering units, and then some semesters I was able to take some fun classes. Once I took a glass blowing class at Fresno State, and that was really fun. That's also a very unique program that not a lot of colleges have, glass blowing. And I was able to take a sculpture class, but I always kept my workload pretty full and worked at the same time. So I don't think that was a bad way to do it. I would recommend it to you. And if you're interested in kind of keeping a full workload, I think that's a good way to keep yourself focused. But yeah, that's kind of how I entered the workforce, just a little background. Student that tried hard and had a pretty full load. It helped that I was in that honors program, certainly a lot. And it just helped to be able to have those community connections with folks that I had worked with in the past at, former internships, to be able to see if they had any positions that were open. So that really was very helpful and a huge blessing. Like I said, I ended up getting 4 job offers, which was incredible. Couldn't believe it. And ended up selecting the job that I have now at the Sonoma County Water Agency because it offered me the opportunity to become dual licensed. So I studied civil engineering in school, but I ended up becoming a licensed professional electrical engineer, which is a whole different discipline. So when I initially took that job, that was kind of my decision-making factor, was the ability to be cross-trained in both disciplines was really attractive, and I thought it would help me in the long run, and it has. So ended up taking the job at the Sonoma County Water Agency. But one thing that I think is important to mention that I would just say to the seniors, I had Dr. Tarani for my 180B class, and he was incredible. I mean, an incredible professor, lecturer, engineer. And I actually asked him, after I had gotten my job offer and had decided that this was the job I wanted to pursue, I asked Dr. Tarani if he would be willing to help me negotiate my job offer. There was no one else in my life that I felt super comfortable asking about that for help. And Dr. Tarani was very, very helpful. For seniors, juniors, high school students, when you get a job offer, it's just a set of papers that's going to lay out the expectations and the parameters of your job, right? And it has stuff about how much you're going to get paid, how much vacation time you have, all of those little adult things, right? And when you first accept a job, that's your best opportunity to kind of negotiate your deal. And Dr. Tarani was huge in helping me negotiate a really good job package. And I ended up using my EIT certificate because I'd passed that FE exam. I was able to negotiate with my future employer and say, well, hey, I'm coming into it. I've got pretty good grades. I've been working at 3 different engineering firms, and I have my EIT. I have, this kind of experience coming into it. How about we negotiate a little more of this or that? And Dr. Tarani ended up helping me prepare for those conversations, and they went really well. And I ended up getting a few of the things that I had really wanted. So don't be afraid to negotiate, but also don't be afraid to ask professors for help. I remember going through with Dr. Tarani and just practicing exactly what I would say during that conversation, because I knew that would be a hard conversation to have, negotiating. So no one really told me about that as an engineering student. So I'm just trying to encourage all of you. That's your best time to kind of work hard and vie for yourself, be an advocate for yourself. And you have professors who want to help you advocate for yourself. So ask for help on that. I ended up graduating in May and then kind of started working. So I've got a few little things that I can talk about with my work experience, but I'll just pause here to see if anyone else has any questions about senior year. Okay, Nicholas, what has helped you develop yourself as a professional in the industry? That's a great question. So one of the things that I did when I first started working at the Sonoma County Water Agency was meet with my boss and develop a set of goals. And those goals were both performance goals for my particular work, what I was doing on the day to day, but they were also goals for where I wanted to go in terms of my professional career. And so when we first sat down, like a couple weeks into work, we talked about, my plan and how I would work to earn my license in both electrical engineering and civil engineering. So I would say once you start working, work with your boss to develop a solid career plan, because to be a professional in the industry, you need to be a professional working in the industry. So make sure that you and your boss are on the same page. And then I'd also say it helps to join other clubs. So stay involved with ASCE, AWWA, like Dr. Pasha said, work to network with other professionals in the community, participate if there's technical talks like this that are going on. I'd say you're already on the right path just by sitting here on a Friday during your lunch hour. So yeah, just stay involved, stay networked, and make sure that you have some professional goals that you're working towards. If you want to get your professional engineering license, make sure that you're logging your experience hours. Make sure that you understand when you start right after you graduate college and you say, I want to become a professional engineer, or I want to get my master's degree, or maybe you want to start volunteering at a high school program and teaching students about what engineering looks like. Develop a plan and hold yourself accountable to that plan, right? So just prepare to succeed. So that's what helped me. Hopefully that helps. I'll just speak a little bit to what I do now. So I ended up graduating from Fresno State with my bachelor's of science in civil engineering and had an emphasis in water resources. I took a job with the Sonoma County Water Agency to be an energy resources engineer, which basically means that I have both of my feet in different disciplines. So my job is basically working on different water and wastewater related facilities and working on the electrical and civil components. So for instance, there is one project that I'm working on right now. I am the design engineer, which means that I come up with all the plans and I tell our contractor exactly what we want to be built. So I come up with that plan for the high school students. Hopefully this isn't too confusing. Come up with a set of plans, a set of specifications to clearly convey what we'd like this project to turn out like. And then I'm also the manager. So I worked with different groups, our construction management group, the environmental group, who helps me understand the environmental impact of our project. I work with folks in an area called right-of-way, some surveyors, to make sure that we're constructing on our property, and work with all those different people to make sure that we can achieve that project goal. And this particular project goal entails elevating electrical equipment out of a floodplain. And so those are some of the projects that I work on. I also have an opportunity to develop programs to manage and maintain different types of systems. So at a lot of our water facilities, water production facilities, which are basically just areas in Sonoma County where we have big wells in the ground with really big pumps, and they consume a lot of water, or they produce a lot of water and they consume a lot of power. And so I work to figure out how to get more affordable power, and then also work to assess the pipelines that run in Sonoma County to make sure that none of them are corroding. And then at some of those facilities where we have really high power consumption, we have constructed solar arrays to help offset the power that we're using. And I help manage those as well and try to plan for the future after those systems degrade and they're no longer useful. They've reached the end of their useful life. We put together a budget and a schedule and figure out what the most cost-effective approach is for replacing that system. So have the opportunity to work on a lot of really cool water and wastewater related projects, very technically challenging, which is fun. It's been really enjoyable to be able to learn electrical engineering and get my license in that. It's very different from civil engineering, but it's very complementary. And I'm really glad that I had the opportunity to study both areas because I think it has made me a stronger engineer. When I look at a set of plans, I'm able to assess two different sections of the plans, the electrical sections and the civil sections, which is really enjoyable because you can make sure that the projects are more cohesive and ensure that a lot of the different concerns related to electrical or civil components are being considered during the design process. So that's something that I never thought I would do, become an electrical engineer, and it was really hard, but it's been really worthwhile. So if you guys have an opportunity and someone says, do you have an interest in doing something that seems out of the norm, but you know that it would help you, be tenacious, go after it. You know, it's not going to hurt you to learn about something new. It's just going to help you. So don't be afraid to fail and don't be afraid to not be good at something. That's how you get good at things, is by not being good at them and then working. So just a little bit of engineering there. Let's see, question from Ivan. Hearing about the projects in your job seems a little daunting, not going to lie. Well, Ivan, if you have any interest, you're welcome to come and shadow me and I'll show you. These projects are very daunting. You know, my boss will ask me, what do you think about doing this project? Or as a public entity, we will put together an application for grant funding, which is usually federal funding, to work on some really big project. And it's very intimidating to think about all this work that's going to happen and you're in charge of all of it. But Ivan, all you've got to do is just look at the big picture, keep that in mind, and then break it into little pieces, little bite-sized pieces, have a little goal for every day, keep a little checklist, and things will get done. You'll make progress, you'll learn, you'll improve. You'll be working with people who will probably give you some good constructive criticism and feedback on things, and that's how you learn. And then eventually your project gets constructed and then you get to maintain it. So it's just a good time. But if I can do it, anybody can, Ivan. You just have to want to do it. Breeza, has the drought impacted your plans? Yes, that's definitely a loaded question. And I would recommend that you look on our website, sonomawater.org. The drought definitely has had an impact on the way that we operate. Sonoma Water as an entity, we pump water, potable drinking water, through the county for folks to drink. And yeah, that's a bigger question for another day, Breeza. But Hernan, hopefully you're willing to provide her with my email, and I'd be happy to chat with you about that offline. Alicia, what tools do you use to keep your time managed? Working as both a designer and a project manager must come with interesting time constraints. Wow, that's a great question, Alicia. And man, if you're a student, you are on the right track with your thought process here. That is just key, time management and project priority. That is something that has been, I think, at least for myself as an engineer, it's something that you just have to continually assess on a daily basis. Sometimes there are days when someone absolutely needs help with something and it's a priority and I have to drop everything else that I'm doing. But really what it is it's just working with the folks around you, your colleagues, your boss, making sure that expectations are clear for which projects have the highest priority, and then being disciplined about setting aside time to achieve those priorities. And they're going to shift. You know, there are projects that are going to come up that need to be dealt with, and other stuff's going to have to go on the back burner. But it's good to have back burner work. We call that job security. So yeah, it's just communication really, Alicia, and then just holding yourself accountable to achieving those goals. Same thing with college classes, right? I mean, you're going to have different assignments. Sure, you can plan for them a little better than you can in the workplace when you have someone who asks you for help, but just about keeping the priorities straight and holding yourself accountable. Any other questions from anybody? Well, I hope this has been helpful. Some of my little tips nobody ever really told me in college. And I learned a lot in college too, but these are just some of the little tips that I've learned that I thought might be helpful to share with you guys. And if you have any questions or you want to chat offline about anything, email me. Dr. Pasha, did you have a question?
Yeah, thank you, Hannah. And before I ask you the question, I'd like to say a few words about you. So thank you, Hannah, for giving your time. And
of course,
this is great to see you. And I know you are doing very great. And thank you for sharing your story with us, with our students. And I appreciate it. So let me tell you, all of you guys. So Hannah was an ideal student, just to be honest. She took several classes with me. I know I taught her 110, 129, 191T, and probably a few other classes I forgot, and all our computer application and water resources engineering. So she shows her interest into the class. She was dedicated, she was sincere, and she was hardworking. So if a student, if you feel like a student had all those four, or maybe even more than that quality, you know that student, it's easy to get an A, and she was always getting an A in my classes. So that's the student's perspective and professor's perspective. You can meet together and see she did wonderful. One thing I need to mention that she never hesitated to ask a question to professor. I know one time Hannah was upset in my class because I extended a little bit of time for my other students during an exam. And Hannah was also in there, but Hannah was telling me, Dr. Pasha, why did not you extend the time at the beginning so I can allocate time accordingly? And I got her point, and she was right. She was right, and so she never hesitated to ask that question. It is technical question, it's a management question, whatever that question. So students, whoever are on this meeting today, please do not hesitate to ask this question, any question. And she was confident, she knew what she was doing, what she does not understand. So that's the key, and Hannah was always doing that. Last one, I would say, Hannah was very grateful. Whatever we taught, we're teaching that class. I know every day, Hannah, before leaving the classroom, she was saying, Dr. Pasha, thank you for teaching us today. And this was excellent. I know that it doesn't have to be that way because that's my job to teach. And when I get something like this kind of compliments, it feels really, really good. And Hannah, thank you for doing that. I still remember. And I give that example to my own kids that I have one student, be like her, and you will see, you will succeed in your career. So question for you, Hannah, are you guys hiring any internship? So I'm a program coordinator for civil engineering program, and I like to expand our internship opportunity to our students. So if you have any openings, any kind of interest, I know you and my work really intersect. As a water resources engineer, as an energy researcher, and you are a manager, probably we can discuss offline. So if you can give us any opportunity, that would be great. I appreciate it.
Certainly will. I will pass those on. Thank you, Dr. Pasha.
I just wanted to say hi to Hannah.
Hey, Dr. Wright.
It's really, really kind of you to take so much of your time. I know it takes time to prepare for one of these talks and to be here to share with the students. And I came in a little bit late, but what I heard I loved, and I just, you're just so real with I may not be the sharpest one in the class, but I worked hard and look where it got me, right? And I think that was my story too. It always took me a little bit longer than some people to get the concepts, but I was willing to put in that extra time,
Yeah.
And that's what, anyhow, again, I just wanted to thank you for being a part of the educational experience of all these students who are listening to you. So thanks.
Oh, yeah.
And Sonoma's wonderful too, by the way. I've spent quite a bit of time in Petaluma and Santa Rosa, and you're in a beautiful country. Anyhow, bye.
Oh yeah, water to wine up here for sure. But yeah, no, thank you, Dr. Wright, and I'm so thankful for Hernan for thinking of me. It's such a privilege and an honor to be able to talk with you students, and I couldn't be more thankful for the experience that I had at Fresno State, and yeah, couldn't be more thankful. And I know it was a very unique educational experience that not every college has. It's really something special. So go Bulldogs.
Do we have any more questions or comments? All right then. Okay, I just want to say thank you to everyone for coming, and thank you, Miss Hannah Salafia Camp, and congratulations on your outstanding professional career. And thank you everyone for joining us for this informational and inspirational talk. A reminder, please tune in to the next Laos College of Engineering Tech Talks the month of October, when we will be hosting another inspirational speaker, Ms. Colleen O'Brien, a construction management alum. And thank you everyone. Have a great weekend.
Thank you so much, everyone. Thank you, Hannah. Thank you, everyone, for joining us this afternoon. Have a great weekend.